Today's daily recap is for Monday, December the 1st, 2025 for BTG, Beyond the Gates. Wow, December 1st, y'all, already. Anyway, today's episode was a filler for me. It wasn't all that earth-shattering grabby. And actually, everybody, the majority of the scene with Vernon and Bill talking. Bill goes to Vernon's house. And for the life of me, with the conversation they were having, I couldn't figure out why Bill was there. Bill was in there all nostalgic, looking around the room, telling Vernon how much he grew to love the family gatherings. Everybody who was anybody would be in this room and all the love. I mean, and I'm thinking, what you doing, Bill? The medication must already be starting to kick on in because there was no purpose for that. And Bill said, and Vernon says, you know, you were part of us, Bill, for decades. Now he goes, yes, I probably should have drew you closer, to me. He says, but I really don't think you wanted to be any closer than you were. He says, because what you did to my daughter, Danny, I could never forgive you. He says, and Bill just said, well, I hate the way that I ended things with Danny as well. He said, because Danny and I, we fit until we didn't. And so Vernon says, not every marriage, unfortunately, stays together. He said, but Bill, what you did to my daughter was cruel. The way you ended things. And then with the public humiliations, the in her face with your now wife, he goes, just cruel. And he goes, yeah. He says, I definitely could have handled things better. And so he says, well, but maybe if I wouldn't have been treated like an outsider. And Vernon said, I didn't treat you like an outsider. I made sure you were afforded all the business clients that family would have. Because I treated you like family, Bill. And people knew you were my family. And he says, answer me this. Had I brought you in closer to me, right? Do you think that would have changed what you did to Danny? And Bill just looked at him like, probably not. Because let's face it, Haley wasn't the first person that he cheated. He had been cheating on Danny for years. So, right? Anyway, they kept going back and forth with those scenes. And Bill's talking and standing around there. Because at one point, Vernon says, so why'd you come by? We never got an answer to that. And I'm sitting there thinking, now, I know you're not asking for an invite over the Christmas holidays with you and Haley. I know you're not asking them to accept her. Because bottom line, you aren't blood. And Danny is their daughter. And Danny's new husband is now going to be brought into the fold. Right? So, no, Bill, no. We're not going to still have you and Haley here, but we'll see. Watch. No, I think Bill will be sick by then. Because, we got Winterfest coming, and I think he's going to fall out on stage. So we'll see how Christmas comes around, what happens with that. But I don't know. I just felt, okay, what was the purpose of the scenes with Bill and Vernon? I didn't get it. So if you all get it in comment corner, let me know. But we have Derek. I am so sick of Derek. So sick of him and Ashley. He's finishing up his therapy appointment, and Andre gets off the elevator and says, "Hey, Derek." Oh, he dropped his keys. Andre picked them up. "Let me get these for you," and handed them to him. Pretty much, so, that kind of pissed Derek off. Like, look, eventually I would have been able to bend down and pick him up, you know. But Derek is looking on the ground like, okay, I'm gonna have to balance myself with this walker. Derek was trying to figure out how he was gonna pick up the keys, and Andre picked them up and gave them to him. And he goes, "So how are things going with you and Ash?" He goes, "Derek, I heard about you and Ashley, and I'm sorry to hear it." And I thought, why would you bring that up, Andre? And he goes, "Really? Yeah." He goes, "Do you think there's any way you guys would get back together again?" And Derek is looking at him like, "Wait, what? Like, why do you want to know? You still trying to see it?" He's taking it like, "Are you still trying to see is there some kind of chance for you and that's how Derek was taking it, all defensive. And that's not what Andre meant, but Andre should have known, don't mention Ashley to him because he lost Ashley to you. So anyway, Derek now is all high and hot and blah blah. Why would you ask me something like that? Why would you? Until Andre's like, you know what? It was just a question, and Shanice and Ashley were walking around the corner. They're at this point at the nurse's station. So Andre's like, I'm here to visit my Uncle Ted anyway. So he goes and leaves, and Ashley looks at him, Derek. What is wrong with you? Why would you, blah, blah, whatever? So he goes, because of the questions he was asking me, is there any way we would get back together again? And she goes, they were innocent questions, I'm sure. No, no, here's the thing, I think he's, secretly wanting to get back with you. And now look, Shanice, that woman gets the best spot for all phone conversations, and she just stands there. She ain't ashamed of her snooping game. And she looking at both of them. Ain't even pretending to look down. She like, "Ooh, okay." Right? So he goes, and he heard about us. How soon do you feel, how soon did you wait to call him to tell him about us? And she looked at him. And he goes, "Simple question asked." She goes, "Well, I don't want, we shouldn't be having this conversation here." He goes, "Why not?" And I would have said, "Because it's my job, bozo. Because it's my job. And you getting loud and belligerent. And guess what? We ain't together. So I don't have to answer your questions, Derek." Right? And so she goes, "That night?" He goes, "What do you mean that night?" "I called him. I texted him." He goes, "So the night that we broke up, that our hearts were broken, you took the time to text him to come over? That's who you were thinking about?" And it would be, "I found out you lied. You were just deceiving me, donkey." I'm saying that in the other word for donkey. What you guys get it. Begins with an A, ends in a couple S's. But anyway. So anyway, he says, "Okay, now walk me through this, Ashley." So you wait minutes, you call him, he comes over, and I thought, oh, are you kidding me? You don't get to scold me like this, like I'm your child. You liar, right? And if you were half the man Andre is, you wouldn't be acting like this, right? And I'm not saying that Andre is such a better person, a better man than Derek, but the way Derek acts and the decisions they made Derek make, Andre is hands down better, right? Derek don't deserve a friend the way he acts. So anyway, he goes, "No, you're gonna what happened?" Well, I texted him and he came over. And I thought, look, watch. Ashley's gonna stick the knife in. So he goes, "Okay." And she goes, and I asked him, was there was there a chance for us to be together? And I thought, oh, yeah, she did that because she knew that would hurt Derek, right? That would hurt. Ouch. Because someone with as insecure as Derek is, telling him that, he goes, it took me days to try to put myself together after we broke up, Ashley. I'm still not all the way together. And that night you were asking him, was there a shot for the two of you? He goes, and you wonder. Every time I would mention it, you're saying there was nothing between you and Andre. So she goes, we broke up because you deceived me. She goes, no, we both deceived each other. And Shanice is just looking because she had told Ashley that too. She goes, we both deceived each other. You wanted Andre all along. He goes, tell me something, Ash. Had I not gotten hurt, would we have even gotten back together again? And she just stands there. Never. And so he goes, he says something and storms off to the elevator. He hears the elevator door opening and he storms off in his little wheel walker. So Ashley goes to the nurse's station, looks at Shanice. She goes, what? And Shanice's like, I don't say nothing. And she goes, well, you looking at me? Okay, now tell me, you know what a horrible person I am. Derek is right and blah, blah, blah. And Shanice says, look, I'm not getting in the middle of this. Okay? It ain't my business. And I'm thinking, girl, you all off in that business, but it ain't my business. And I'm gonna tell you right now, she goes, right now you working. So you need to get yourself together and continue to work. So Shanice walks away and she's at the, so Andre's talking to Ted, talking about blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it used to be Ashley, but somewhere along the lines it changed. He loves Danny and yeah, blah, blah, blah. So he comes out and he says, Ashley, are you okay? Is everything all right? I said, stop it, Andre. See, you know what you're doing. And she looks at him. She goes, yes, everything's fine. Well, are you sure? She said everything was fine, right? And so she goes, Derek and I just had words, but everything is okay. And he goes, okay, all right. Well, he says something to her, but then he goes, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take off. So, I hope everything goes well, Ashley, or something he tells her. And he leaves, gets on the elevator like, psh. I'm not going to do what I normally do. Keep asking you. You don't look okay. You could talk to me. I'm here for you. Come over here and let's sit down for a minute. Tell me. No, he didn't do none of that. He asked her a couple times and he's like, all right, good, 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 good. I'm glad everything will be all right. I'm out, right? But, he still want to dip his toe in the middle of it half the time, I kind of think, right? Smitty ends up going to Joey Armstrong because some donation checks to the campaign came in and Joey wrote a $7,000 check. So Smitty takes it back to him and tells him that, look, Martin's running a clean campaign. And you already know you giving a sizable donation taints that. And Joey said, I don't know how it taints it. Money's money. He goes, but your money ain't just money. Your name is associated to it. And so Joey's like, well, mine, because, Martin's associated with me. And Smitty is pretty much not threatening. He ain't stupid enough to threaten Joey, but saying, leave Martin alone. Let him run his campaign. Martin can do a lot for this city, right? And so Martin shows up because see, they have Martin's campaign manager was at the house, and Smitty was supposed to be logging all the checks, so she was doing other things, so she took a phone call, and that's when Smitty ended up finding the check and going to Joey's. Martin comes home. He goes, "Where's Smitty? I thought he's supposed to be helping." She says, "Well, maybe he had an errand to do." He did get a little upset. He saw a donation check from a Joey Armstrong, and he wasn't happy with it. So Martin knew where Smitty went. So Martin shows up, and Joey is like, you know, I like having a congressman in my pocket. And Martin says, the arrangement that you pretty much forced me into under duress, especially with trying to get my niece back. Okay, yeah, I did enter into it, but leave Smitty out of it. And he goes, he came here to me. I didn't call him. And he goes, he's here because he loves me. And I don't know if you have anybody in your life that you love that would go to the mat for you, that only wants to believe the best in you. Well, that's Smitty. And he says something else, and Joey's just looking because Joey's thinking, oh, I got Vanessa, right? So they leave. And Martin says, so you know what? We're leaving because my business is done here. And Joey says, ooh, our business is never done. He says, ever. He says, look, you can do what you do, and I will continue to do what I do, running my businesses. And as long as what you do doesn't intersect and affect what I do, we're going to be just fine. So Smitty and Martin look at him. And they're walking out. And he goes, oh, Congressman, aren't you forgetting something? And it was a $7,000 check. And Martin said, no, actually, I'm not forgetting anything. And they walked out. So Joey's like, put the check in his pocket, like, yeah, whatever. Now, Vanessa is trying to poach women at the country club, the snootiest too. So she tells them, gives them her business, the business for the escort service, but it doesn't say escort service on it. And they're like, well, what is this? And she goes, this number here can really change, your life, free some things up. And they go, well, if this is your secret because you really look good, saying, I know, grieving the loss of Doug. How are you doing, by the way? She goes, oh, I'm okay. She goes, because if this number has something to do with your attitude and the way you look, then we want some of that, right? So they end up going over to their table talking, and Danny had walked up. And she goes, what were you doing talking to them snooties, right? And so Vanessa ends up telling her about, no, they come walking back to the table. We call this number Vanessa. And the one of them said, and I know I'm a happily married woman. She throws the card on the table. I would not use any of these services. And Vanessa says, oh yeah, I've heard about how happy you are in your marriage. And the woman looked at it like, right? And so the other one says, and I would never use this either, throws her card down. And Danny's looking like, what's going on? So they go to their table and they're talking to each other. So Danny says, what's going on here? What's this service? I think it's called I forget the name of it. And Danny says, I know what this is, Vanessa. I know this is the service, the escort service that you were frequenting. And so she goes, Joey Armstrong has you poaching people here, trying to get clients at the country club? And Vanessa said, well, for one thing, no, he's not. And for two, these women have a lot of money. And a lot of them are bored in their marriages. They are absolutely not being fulfilled. And she looked at Danny, she says, remember, Danny, I was one of them, right? And so Danny says, but to be just getting business for Joey, she says, not for Joey. And she goes, what are you talking about? She goes, I run the escort service. I run the business. And she goes, you're you are. She goes, no, don't even say, talk like I'm a pimp. And so Danny goes, well, madam, that was so funny. She goes, madam? She goes, ultimately, it's still the same thing. And so Vanessa says, I have a very good head for business, and this is a legitimate business. She goes, well, it's pretty much prostitution. She says, no, absolutely no, it is not. She said, this is a legitimate business. We pay our taxes, and our escorts in the contracts, it's clearly defined what they're going to do. She says, now, our patrons happen to be consenting adults. If they happen to take things to another level, that's on them. That's between two consenting adults. And I'm thinking, well, really? Because one of them is on the clock. That's what I was thinking, right? Anyway, so anyway, Vanessa ends up jumping up, walking away, saying she don't need Danny's judgment. And Danny ends up coming to her saying, you know, I'm the least person to judge. I don't judge. Blah blah blah. I'm here for you, but I will not stop worrying about you because you're grieving, but you're searching for something, Vanessa, and a lot of it has to do with grief. And she looked at Danny and she said, yes, I am grieving the loss of Doug. She says, however, I have been searching for something for years now. She goes, Doug and our marriage wasn't like that. She goes, we barely had sex anymore, barely. I would see the man maybe an hour a day, maybe. And that was it. Period. So you're saying that I'm changing. She goes, I'm now becoming my own, making my own decisions. She goes, Joy doesn't make decisions for me. I'm making the decisions. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Doug didn't make no decisions for you. You were running a very profitable real estate agency, brokerage firm. Doug had nothing to do with it. Doug just got y'all into trouble with Joey. That was Doug's doing. But anyway, that. And that's it, everybody. Oh, but oh, excuse me, at the beginning, opening, Shanice was talking to Ted. I think they would make a cute couple if you ask me, right? I really, really do. Ted was saying, Shanice, how come you don't have this place holiday decked out? Let's get some holiday spirit in here. And she said, well, Dr. So-and-so said it was too soon for decorations. And Ted said, well, you let him know that I approved of it. So get this place going, Shawnee style. So she goes, and she kind of leaning against the nurse's station. Like he's facing her, she's leaning against the station talking to him, right? And something that if Leslie would have came in, she'd have hit the roof, right? And so she said, okay, I will definitely do that. She goes, why aren't you the Santa Claus this year? He goes, hold up, hold up. No, no, no. I'm not Santa Claus this year. Do not volunteer me to be the Santa Claus. And I mean it, Shanice. And she just, he goes, no, no, no. She goes, because I know I deserve to get all, a lot of the gifts and everything. And he goes, if you make sure I stay off the volunteers list for anything, he said, I just might see what I could do to hook you up with some presents or some stuff. So she goes, oh, okay, consider that done, right? And I thought, I like those two together. I really do. I wonder would Nicole like those two together? Hmm, that would be interesting. What would Nicole think about that? What do you think Nicole would think about that? But that's all that happened, everybody. For the full daily recap. No, this is the full daily recap. I'm acting like this is a rapid recap. But I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of BTG Beyond the Gates.